Hey, what's up everyone? This is Music Tech Help Guy and welcome to my new home studio. I know I've promised a studio tour and this is it. In this video I'm going to give you a full tour of my new home studio, all of the setup and all the little quirks about it. I'm about 90% set up, I think. I do have a few whistles and bells that I need to sort of sort out, but I'll go through those as I give you the tour. I'll also just kind of give you a life update and a channel update and just let you know what's been going on in my world, and I'll save that more for the end of the video. But the reason why I have a new home studio setup is because my wife and I moved to a new house about a month and a half ago, and so naturally I had to drag all of the studio equipment out of the old house, all of my instruments, all of my gear, this desk, everything, all of the sound panels, everything had to be pulled out of that old house, and that took way longer than I thought it was going to. I basically have spent the last 2 months just on moving things and fixing things and making sure all the gear's over here and troubleshooting and trying to make this space work in a similar way to how my old house, my old home studio in the old house worked. And I'm pretty happy with it. There's a few limitations that I'll point out as we go through the tour, but I guess I shouldn't waste any more time. Let's just jump straight into the studio tour. So let me just pull this guy out of here. So here is the desk. Just zoom that out a bit. This is an Argosy, I think it's called a Dual 15 or something like that. Sort of at the heart of everything is my M1 Ultra Mac Studio. I bought that, I don't know, it's been probably almost like a year and a half now. It's just been an amazing computer. I never get stop-ups in Logic anymore. I never have playback errors. I just absolutely love it. Probably next to the heart is the brain, and the brain, maybe if that's the brain, this is the heart. Is my Symphony IO Mark II, still rocking the Symphony. This is an amazing interface that's modular, so you can put different cards in these. Right now I have an 8-channel preamp card that I use, but I'm probably going to upgrade to have a second 8-channel preamp card, so I have 16 total channels. I guess I'll just go down the racks here. So basically, the way I do this is Symphony is connected to the Mac Studio over Thunderbolt. Then I have a SPDIF cable that goes from this down to this PreSonus central station. And that SPDIF is just, it's basically a duplicate of outputs 1 and 2. And so this is like where my main volume control is. What I love about this system, the central station, is that it allows it for up to 3 pairs of speakers on separate outputs. So it takes the input of 2 channels and splits it to 6. So right now I have on A are my Avantone CLA 10s. And then on C, I can turn this on and off. This goes to my subwoofer over here, and I'll talk about that in just a bit. I used to have some Dyne Audio BM15s on channel B here, but I just took those out. They're too big for this room. This room is a little smaller than the old place. It was just too much, and honestly, one of them's broke too. So I honestly find myself working on the CLA 10s more than anything else. And the thing about these is, they're based on the old Yamaha speakers. The thing I love about these is they're so mid-range hyped that you can't possibly put out a bad mix, because if you push the mid-range even too much, if anything in the mix gets too harsh, you're gonna immediately hear it. So these speakers have just been a godsend for me in terms of just upping the quality of my mixes. So yeah, those are the Avantone CLA 10s, love them. I power those with an Alesis reference amp. It's not necessarily the recommended amp for these speakers, but it works. And then what I've got down here is a patch panel, just a mic panel, and then this is a Focusrite Liquid Sapphire 56. This is one of those old 8-channel Firewire interfaces from back in the day. This was like my daily driver for a long time. This was my main interface for a very long time. What I've got it doing now is it's not even running in Firewire mode. Obviously, the Mac Studio doesn't accept Firewire. None of the new ones do. But I've got it set to mic input for all 8 channels. When I turn this on, it gives me 8 more mic channels. And what I have is I've got an ADAT light pipe, it's basically optical, going to the Symphony. And so the Symphony's 8 channels are recognized as 1 through 8. The Sapphire is recognized as 9 through 16 in Logic. So it gives me basically 16 total channels to record with when I actually use that, which is almost never. And then basically this Hosa mic panel is just going into this and going into this. think 1 through 8 I have going into 1 through 8 on the Symphony IO, and then 9 through 12 are the first 4 on the Sapphire. And if I really need to use the last 4 channels on this, I'd have to plug it in from under the desk, which again, I almost never use more than 12 mic channels, even when I record like what the hell is my hair doing? When I record drums for my wife's band, that's usually when I actually need to use that. It's very uncommon that I use more than 12 channels. Typically, you know, I can get away with like kick, snare, tom, hi-hat, stereo overheads, and then like stereo room mics, and then maybe I'll use a second snare mic and then a talk mic. Hey everyone, before we get back to the studio tour, I just want to quickly tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Boombox. Boombox is the ultimate collaboration tool for musicians, songwriters, and music producers. With Boombox, you can upload your tracks, multi-tracks, stems, lyrics, samples, loops, and even full DAW sessions that you can securely share with your collaborators. But Boombox is more than just a file storage service. It's a suite of collaboration tools for music creators. You can receive time-stamped feedback on your tracks, so this is great for going back and forth on a project with your producer, musicians, or bandmates. And you can even give your collaborators editor or admin access to your files so they can upload their own revisions to the same project. This keeps all of the revisions and feedback in one place, so you're not having to sort through dozens of emails from different people. They have a desktop app for easy upload and mobile apps for listening to tracks and leaving feedback on the go. If you want to check out Boombox for yourself, head over to boombox.io today to get 4 gigabytes of free storage. So that's most of the gear in this rack. The only thing that's left is this DBX 286S. This is a mic preamp and vocal processor. I use this for all of my YouTube videos to process my voice now. I use the Earthworks Icon mic with this comically large wind screen here, and that goes straight into the DBX. This has got a preamp, it's got a compressor, it's got an EQ section, it's got a de-esser, and it's got a gate. And then what I have is this being hardwired over here to this Golden Age Comp 2A. This is sort of an LA2A style optical compressor, and that's just, you know, you get the final silk, you know, give it controlling the dynamics just a little bit further, and then that goes straight into channel 1 on the Symphony. It's just hardwired that way. Honestly, it's just quicker to get work done that way. So that's this side. I guess let's go over to this side. On this side, I have my little tabletop Alesis V25 MIDI controller. Nothing special there, but it's just kind of like my daily driver for putting in chords and things like that. Obviously, I got a pair of Golden Age Comp 2As. Like I said, this one's hooked up to my voiceover mic. This one is hooked up to one of the output channels on the Symphony. I've got the Stam SA76D, an amazing 1176 clone or emulation, whatever you want to call it. Great on snare, great on drums, great on bass, great on vocals. Got the Black Lion Audio Bluey. So this is another one of my favorite 76 style compressors. Awesome on vocals, amazing on vocals. And again, these two, just like this, are hardwired to an output over here. The Yamaha motif rack's not even hooked up. And then, like, the piece of gear that I cannot live without anymore is the Rupert Neve Portico 2 Master Bus Processor. This is, like, on every single record I mix and master. It is just the best, like, all-in-one mastering box. And I do use, you know, I use some Ozone stuff in Logic and a few other third-party plugins, but this goes on every single master that I do. It's just insane. I love the sound of this thing. It's great. It's not just great for the compression, but also this section over here, it's got like a center focus and like a width, a stereo width. And then the magic with this is the silk too. There's a red silk, which is kind of more like a brighter, more hyped top end sound. And then blue is more of like a creamier top end, a warmer top end. Of course you can turn it off, but I almost always use the red mode on almost everything. Just dial in a little bit of compression. And I pretty much use the same, honestly, I use pretty much the same setting on most songs. I have it already pulled up here in stereo, and then I run the song through it, make a few little tweaks. And yeah, I mean, almost everything I put out of this thing sounds amazing. So that's this side. Again, all this stuff is hardwired in. I don't have a patch bay anymore. Over here, you'll see I've got some TT patch cables. That was from my old TT patch bay, and I started having channels go bad, so I just pulled it out. Eventually I'll get another patch bay, and I'll just wire everything into the patch bay. It's honestly way easier that way to have a patch bay, but TT patch bays, to buy them new, they're like at least $1,000 these days. So I'm kind of saving up for that. The way I record in here, like if I've got a vocalist in the next room, is I actually take the cue output from the central station, which can be assigned to the digital input, so the SPDIF coming straight from the Symphony. So that'll just be a duplicate of the main mix coming from Logic. But what I can also do is use TRS-1 or TRS-2, which I believe I have 3 and 4 coming out of this, which is why I said sometimes I have to do some things under the desk to use this gear. I have to kind of put myself in recording mode versus mixing mode. But then I'll use 3 on the cue output, and this actually goes to a wireless transmitter. It's actually right here. This is a Ska Pro Danny transmitter. I did a review on this using it as like a headphone monitoring system. So this sends a wireless signal over to the next room. And then there's a receiver over there that receives the signal. You just plug your headphones in, and there you go. You can just bypass needing, a headphone monitoring system. These are from Dillinger Labs, but the technology inside is called Ska. I've got those. I got a few of those actually. The way the sub works in this room, it's a little unique. I've got a little portable wireless transmitter attached to the output of C on the central station, and that sends signal over to this Dillinger Labs Death from Below sub. And this one's actually a prototype. I have the production model in the other room. I'll show you in a bit. I actually have 2 of each, but they sent me this prototype model as like a demo just to review, and it's got 6 different EQ modes. You can use it for live sound, you can use it for studio. It's got profiles for EQ profiles for all that. And the reason why I switched over is not just because they gave me a review unit, it's because my old sub, this guy right here, this is a Mackie HRS 120. That's the model on that one. This thing is an amazing sub. I love it, but it is so overkill for this room. This room is much smaller. No, maybe not much smaller, but a little smaller than my old place. And so this sub is just way too loud for this room. So I don't use it at all. So I've unhooked it and I've switched over to the Ska sub for now. For headphones in here, I use the Beyerdynamic DT900s. Yeah, DT900 Pro X. Love these. Open back. I love using open back for mixing. I love the pads on these. They're just so soft and so comfortable. And they sound great too. So back here is just sort of like books and bookshelf speakers and iPads. What I do these days is I record most of my video on my iPhone 15, which I'm holding right now. And then I have this stand where I can put the iPad in the stand, and the iPad becomes my teleprompter when I need to have a teleprompter read. And then down here is just storage, cables, XLR cables, all that kind of stuff. Just trying to stay organized. All the panels in here are the same panels I had in the old place. They're all those UA Acoustics foam panels I did a review and setup on a few years back. They're great. I mean, I think I can, they're a foam product, so obviously pulling them off the wall can be a little tricky, especially if you used adhesive to put them up, but I was able to make it work, and I'll probably get one more good use out of these. And yeah, they've been great. I mean, they took a room like this that was super reflective, and just, I added a rug in here and just tamed it down into a totally functional control room. So, and also one of the things I like about the new studio is my control room is actually symmetrical, or mostly symmetrical. So I get better acoustics from that, although I take a hit because the room is a little smaller. One thing I haven't installed yet are the ceiling panels. So if you ever hear a little bit of comb filtering in my voiceover, that's the reason why. I also need to get rid of this light fixture and fan. I've got a different light fixture I'm going to be putting in here. This is a guitar I actually made. If you ever watched the Glary-Caster review video I did of this cheap $90 guitar, this is the body of that guitar. I basically took the Glary body, swapped out everything else. It's new pickups, new hardware, new locking tuners, Fender locking tuners, and I got this neck made. It's a custom baritone scale neck. So it's like 28.5 or 28.6 inches long. So it's like 3 inches longer than like a standard guitar neck. And I can play this thing like a bass 6. Basically, I can play it like a standard tuned guitar down 1 octave. So I use this for a lot of like the heavy riffing metal stuff I've been doing lately. I use the Novation Launch Key 61, although I am looking at getting one of those Native Instruments controllers just because I use Contact a lot. Got my degrees up here. It only took me 14 years to get my degrees up on the wall. I do have a master's degree in music. There's the proof of that. And this is an old drum head from my band's, I think our last show or one of our last shows, signed by the band. So I just figured, you know what, let's get this stuff up on the wall. A bunch of gear that needs to be reviewed, or I just either don't use anymore or just don't currently have set up, old boxes and things like that. I do use the Launchpad a lot. I love the Launchpad. I also love these, I did a couple of videos on these. I love these Monogram console modules. They're these sort of magnetic snap together MIDI controller. Anytime I'm doing like a lot of sound design work and I need to move a lot of parameters and soft synths, that's what I'll pull these out. You know, I've got the old V67 from Jay-Z mics up here. Anytime I need like a good solid state condenser mic, I'll pull this guy out. This is an AEA, I think it's called an N22. So it's an active ribbon mic. So it, you know, you can actually turn on phantom power. You get a little better frequency response out of it than you do most ribbon mics. It's a great mic for drum room mics. You can even use it on voice. You can use it on acoustic guitar. It's really a fantastic mic. This case is all just dynamic mics, just a whole bunch of dynamic mics and some cheap condensers. I'm not going to bother going through all that with you. Other mics I have here are this Cascade Fathead. Again, I use this for like a drum room mic sometimes. Yeah, this thing's got a really gorgeous look to it. And I've been trying to find another model just like this because there's some variations in the Fathead. There's one where like it's got the same top but a big fat bottom. I think it's an early-ish serial number. Maybe not. Maybe that's a late serial number. I don't know. But I've been trying to find a match for this. And I know they're not going to be a matched pair, but I'm trying to find essentially the same type of mic, and I keep finding other variations of the Fathead, but not this one. This is for my Golden Age GA 251. I'll come back to that in a bit because it's in the other room. And then this is like my other main condenser mic, tube mic that is, that I use for vocals and use for things on a regular basis. This is a Stam Audio SA47 tube condenser mic, and this thing is heavy as hell. This is a solid mic. This is an amazing sounding mic. So this is like, you know, your U47 clone. Okay, so I guess I'll take you over to the tracking room, which this is one of the things about this house that I really like is I actually have a separate control room, a separate tracking room, and then I have a separate drum area for my wife's drum kit / staging area. So overall, I have more space, but in terms of the individual rooms are smaller. But I don't mind it so much. I like the fact that the tracking room is right here and the control room is right here because it's in a hallway, so I can just put this dog gate up, and then the doggos don't bother all of my clients. They're gonna jump all over you. Okay, so here is the tracking room / tracking booth. I was able to take all of the UA Acoustics panels that I had in my old drum room, music room in the old house that sort of doubled as a tracking area, and I was able to get them out and move them over here without too much damage to the panels. I did use construction adhesive this time to get these on the wall, so this will probably be the final use for these. They're probably going to have to be scraped off the wall and thrown straight in the trash, but that's a few years out down the road. It sounds great in here. I mean, for a little tiny, you know, rectangle-shaped bedroom, I mean, it sounds pretty damn good in here. Honestly, if I had to, I could probably use this room as the control room, but you know, I chose the other room because this room's a little smaller and it's also not as symmetrical. So you got, you know, I got different panels on each side of the wall, a different number of panels. This is my other sort of daily driver mic for recording vocals and pretty much anything. It's great on acoustic guitar. This is the Golden Age GA 251. This is like an ELAM 251 clone. Another fantastic tube mic. Those are the two tube mics that I own, this one and then the Stam. Both fantastic mics in their own right. What else? This is kind of the speaker storage room too. I've been doing a lot of work for this company called Ska and some of their other partnered companies like Dillinger Labs and Soundbox. And so I've got a couple of Soundbox speakers. I've also got another Soundbox over there in the box still. This is just the same sub that I showed you in the control room. It's This one's just another prototype model. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it, but I do have two of the, the actual consumer product here that I'll probably use. I've got my old BM15s. I'm going to hold on to these until I get a bigger studio. Of course, the dream is to always have my own big studio, but I need a room big enough to actually use these. They're too big. They sound great. They're just too big to use in my current control room setup. For my headphones, I've got my Austrian Audio headphones, my Maze headphones. These are both great, but these days I'm mostly using the Beyerdynamic DT700 Pro X's. These are the closed back version of those same headphones I had back in the control room. Fantastic for tracking. I also have these are another ska product. They're Dillinger Labs Helix. They're wireless. What you can actually do with these is you can turn these on and you can completely bypass this receiver and just monitor straight from the headphones. But I don't usually use it that way just because I want the artist, one, to have a little more comfort. These are a bit more comfortable, and also have their own volume control. Doing volume control on those is possible, but you have to do it right on the headphone. It's not quite as easy to do. What else? Oh, guitars. I don't know. For a guitar player, I think I have a pretty modest guitar collection. I mean, I've got an Ibanez bass. That's nothing special. I've got a Mexican Stratocaster with Floyd Rose. I've got a Schecter C1. This was like my main guitar for a long time. This was like the main guitar I used with my band. I use this for like drop D, drop C kind of stuff these days. And then I've got my Schecter Blackjack, which is my first 7-string guitar. This one, the scale length on it's not that long, so you can only get away with certain low tunings. So this is sort of like my standard tuning 7-string. I'm going to skip this one for a second. I'll come back to it. This is my very first full-size electric guitar that I got when I was like, I think I was 13 years old, maybe 14. Before this, I had a little like starter 3/4 size guitar. This is a Dillion is the brand. It's kind of an off-brand, but they're not completely an off-brand. Like, they actually make pretty quality stuff. This guitar was actually very solid for all the years I used it. This thing's been kind of a Frankenstein, though. It's a shorter scale, like I think it's a Gibson scale, so really standard tuning's all you can do with it. I put a new pickup in at one point. It was the first time I ever like tried to experiment with putting in my own pickups and doing my own wiring. I swapped out the third knob for a switch. At one point I had some locking tuners up here, but they broke. So, this thing definitely needs a bit of a refurbish. When I get some free time, I'd like to put some brand new pickups in here and redo all of the electronics on it. But that's just another good, like, standard tuning guitar. This next one's really my baby. This is a Schecter Reaper 7. And this is a multi-scale 7-string guitar. So the bottom string is like, I think it's 27 inches, and then the top string is like 25.5. So I can go down to like low F sharp on this low string, and it still keeps its tension. If I go any lower than that, things start to get a little floppy, but I just absolutely love this guitar. It's probably the most expensive guitar I own, but it's not really that fancy. Like I said, my guitar collection for being a guitar player is fairly modest. In terms of acoustic guitars, I really don't have anything fancy. I have this Washburn acoustic. This is pretty much my main acoustic. This is an old Ibanez acoustic electric that actually sounds really good, but it needs a new amp or whatever, a new preamp, so I got to put that in at some point. And this one back here, this one has an interesting story. This is I think it's a late 60s or early 70s. If I'm reading the serial number correctly, it's like a 1969 Epiphone, like really super base model Epiphone, like something you could probably get at like Sears or something back in the day. So it's not a fancy guitar, but what's most interesting about this guitar is this is my great-grandmother's guitar that she gave me. I don't know if it was in the will, but the family decided to give it to me, I suppose, so I'm happy for that. I did do a setup on it. I did try to make it playable, but it needs a little more work than I'm capable of doing. So one of these days I'll take it to a shop and get it back in playable condition. For amps, I really don't have much for amps. I used to have a Hughes & Kettner Switchblade with a half stack that I used for gigs with my band when I was playing metal shows back in the day. I used to have a Kemper Profiler that I sold, and I regret it. In fact, I regret selling both of those amps. What I did pick up, though, was a Hughes & Kettner Grandmeister 36. Fantastic little amp. And honestly, in a studio this size with a tracking room this small, A small amp is going to sound better in the room than a large amp because you can actually push the amp, you can crank the gain on it and get more of that, that raw, aggressive tone without, shaking the house down. I do have this Ampeg SVT 350 down here. Don't have a cab for it. Still working on getting a cab for that. But when's the last time anyone ever used an amp to record bass? I mean, I think almost every bass recording I've done in the last 8 years has been DI bass, except for like a few studio gigs where I was up at a different studio. Pedal board, again, I'm not a big pedal guy anymore. I used to be a big pedal guy, but I just have my little Boss chromatic tuner. I got this exotic wah that's got a few different wah tones. Plasma pedal, honestly, I haven't even figured out what to use this for. It's got a cool sound. It looks cool. It was like $300. I haven't used it on a single record. And then the Eventide H9, good God, this is like the best time-based effects processor for guitar. It is just insane what you can do with the H9. So pedal board, nothing too special there. Okay, so that's the tracking room. Nothing else really too special in here. This is just going to be like my little tracking storage area for the time being. Okay, so this is the last part of the tour, and I'm sure you can see it's another day. I actually decided to set up this area in advance and record here for this portion of the video and the end of the video because it was a mess yesterday. So this is my new staging area / drum room. So what I love about this space is it allows me to do videos where I basically just need to talk to the camera or do, product reviews. So I have an iPad teleprompter right there. I have proper lighting. I have colored backlighting. And since we're in a more open, untreated space, I use an SM7B for my dialogue here instead of using a condenser mic. But overall, this space is just more open. So like often when I film in the control room, it gets a little cramped in there and there's only room for one light in that room. So, I'm just cramped for space in the control room. So sometimes it's nice to just shoot in a big open area like this, especially when I'm dealing with products and things like that. The purpose of this space, at least the way it's set up right now, is obviously to do product reviews and demonstrations, unboxings, basically anytime I need to fidget around with hardware. The second purpose of this room, it's really the main purpose, is to function as a drum room for my wife's drum kit. That's probably what it'll be used most for most of the time. So when I'm not doing product demos, I'll pull this table and all this stuff out of here and we'll get her kit set up. We've got a really big Gibraltar drum rack, so when we need to set up for product demos again, it makes it really easy to just carry the drum rack out of the frame temporarily, and then I can move it back when we need to record drums again. Eventually, what I'd like this to do with this setup is set it up in a way so where I just have a full set of microphones on the drums at all times. So if I want to track drums, I can just pull up a Logic template, set my levels, and hit record. My wife's band does a lot of cover videos from time to time. So that's typically what we'll be using this space for video and simultaneous video and audio recording for her drums. And what I also love about this area for drum recording is that this room is just one giant, like semi-open floor plan. So right in front of me is my dining area. To the left is our living room. And then off in that direction is the kitchen. So it's really just one big room, which means I can experiment with a lot of different drum room mics in different locations. And I could never do that in my old place because the old space was just so small. So that's pretty much it. That's the new home studio. I guess I'll take a moment and address some, life changes and just talk about why all the big changes. For the last 7 or 8 years, I have just been really pushing myself too hard with work. I've been working a full-time job on and off, depending on what year it was, trying to run my business and do production work, and then also trying to do some contract work like I'm doing with Scott, and then also maintain a YouTube channel. And I just had one too many years of consistent 50, 60, 70-hour weeks, 6-day work weeks, losing my voice like I'm losing it right now, doing 7-day work weeks, 10 hours a day sometimes. So it was just getting crazy. And, I'm going to be 39 at the end of this month. So I'm almost 40. I probably could have handled all of that at 29, but at 39, I just can't. It's like I don't have the energy for it anymore. I don't have the patience for it anymore. So something had to give. And in talking with my wife and just kind of figuring out what the best, financial decision was for us, I was faced with two choices. I either need to quit my full-time job, focus only on the business and the YouTube channel and my contract work, which is scary because you're going out into the world and you're making your own paycheck every day. Like, so I have to send invoices, I have to wait for the companies to pay me. It's a little bit different in terms of like feeling secure in your finances, but it's something I knew I would love doing. The alternative was to just stick with my full-time job and do a few YouTube videos and kind of stop doing production and contract work. And I just couldn't do that. It would kill me. I have to do this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I love teaching, don't get me wrong. I love content creation and instructional design. And that's essentially what I was doing at my last job. I was working for a fairly well-known online music production school. I was a program manager for their program, and I'm very happy with all the work I did there, and I met a lot of super talented people and colleagues and students alike. And while I was there, I was able to create something like 20, almost 20 courses for their program. And so I love that kind of work, don't get me wrong. It was just becoming too much, trying to juggle that, plus my personal life, plus the YouTube channel, plus my business and production work and contract work. So something had to give, and ultimately I came to the conclusion that I'll be much happier doing this for a living instead of working at a college. So I sort of soft retired from higher education on March 1st, and I've just been gung-ho about doing contract work, and actually most of that time I've just been setting up the new house and moving, but so it's been a lot to take in all at once. The other side to this too is when you work 50, 60, 70-hour weeks on the regular and you're working completely from home and you're sitting in a chair at a desk, it becomes very easy to end up with a completely stagnated, sedentary lifestyle. And that's a trap I was falling into. And I'm sure you can all tell I have gained quite a bit of weight over the last 4 or 5 years. I went from Music Tech Help Guy to Music Tech Fat Guy. And now, like, one of my other goals with having a little more free time is to exercise more, eat right more, put time into my physical and mental health, and also to spend more time with my family and my wife and my friends, and, do things that are actually enjoyable and try to be as healthy as I can along the way. I've already lost a little weight. Like, this shirt did not fit me 2 months ago, so I'm like, that's why I broke this one out. So I'm making progress. That the steps are already there in place. I just have to take those steps and move forward and stay consistent in my routine. So really, moving forward at this point, my main focus is just going to be growing my brand, growing my business, doing more contract work, doing way more YouTube content, creating more courses for my own website, which kind of ties back into growing my business and my brand, doing more production work that I love, and focusing on my health and spending more time with my wife and my family. Those are really like the main reasons why I quit my job, moved to another house, and kind of had this fresh start, sort of a soft reboot of my career. And so far, a month in, I'm really happy with it. Obviously, like I said, when you go rogue and you're 100% fully self-employed and you got to pay business taxes, and like, there's a lot of really scary elements to it. And I've been down this road before. There was a couple of years stint back in the day where I was fully self-employed, and I loved it, but it was just like the money wasn't there at the time. Now I'm finally at a point where the money's there and I can fully sustain myself just doing this for a living. And that comes back to you guys. I have to thank you guys for this, because I can't sit here and act like my career would be as good as it is without the YouTube channel. People recognize me from the YouTube channel. People find me from my Logic videos and hire me for work. And without the YouTube channel and without your support, I wouldn't be here. I don't know that I would be in the position I am in now. I might just be still, knee deep in academia, teaching and doing education management and administration. This is more exciting to me. And so I just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for all of your continued support over the years. I know a lot of things have changed, a lot of formats have changed. I know I've been fairly inconsistent in my upload schedule, especially the last couple of months. I promise things are going to be a bit more consistent here on out. I know I said I was going to bring back the Ultimate Guide to Logic Pro this week. Some things came up. I had to do some more stuff at the house, so that's going to be saved for this coming week, but I should be jumping right back into those Ultimate Guide videos. Maybe not first thing next week, but probably Wednesday of next week. And I'm also going to be getting back into the songwriter series that I started. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for all of the continued support, continuing to watch the videos, continuing to comment, continuing to give feedback, and being here for the ride. So once again, thank you so much, and thanks for watching.